So what are some of the things that I have learned going from a rookie to now having about 11 trips under my belt? Well, one of the things I would say is that the RV is not as complicated as you think at first. A lot of times you see some of these systems, you hear some of these terms, what's a gray tank, what's a black tank, what's a slide out, how do these things work? They seem really complicated. Hey, I'm a nerd. I read the manual when I got this thing. I have a lot of friends who know what they're doing. So before I went and made this purchase, I've got 3 friends who are really into RVing and camping. 2 of them have done full-time camping up to a year in a trailer, and they were the people that I went to get information about what am I looking for, how do these things work. A quick text or a quick call. And actually, when I purchased my RV, one of my good friends, he went with me to look at it because honestly, I didn't know my black tank from my gray tank. I don't know about RV batteries, all of these things. But once you get the hang of it, read the manual, get some friends, they can walk you through it. It's not as complicated. Thankfully, you've got YouTube. You can look up about whatever you want on YouTube and somebody will certainly explain it to you. Another thing that I've learned is that driving a big RV is tiring. So even as we envision, hey, let's take a long trip out west, the reality is that would be very tiring. I'm not sure I want to drive 8 hours a day times 3 days to get all the way to, say, Colorado or Utah or something like that. I've got a trip in a few weeks where we're going to drive about 3.5 hours. That will be the longest I ever take this thing, and we'll see how fatiguing and tiring that is. One of my friends gave me some really good advice, and he said when you're pulling a trailer or when you're driving a motorhome, you're not in a hurry. And I think that's the best advice that I ever got. Don't get in a hurry. That's when you make a mistake. Drive slow, get in the right lane on the interstate. You're going to be slow, take it easy, don't make any mistakes. Another thing that I've learned is that the setup and the teardown process is not that difficult. You can get it down to 15 or 20 minutes. Every campground is different, but most of them are set up pretty well. You can back in or sometimes you have to pull through, but my kids will be out playing. I can usually get this thing set up with the water, with the electric, get my slides out, get my stabilizer jacks down. That's anywhere from a 15-20 minute process, and then to get torn down is about the same. And then on your way out of that campground, you got to dump your black and gray tank, but honestly, that's no big deal either. Another thing that we've learned is that camping with friends is great. You've got friends that like to do this. Get your calendars together, find some reservations. Your kids will play and have a great time. The adults can chill and hang out. We've really loved that. Although we do love going as a family as well. Sometimes when we go with friends who have kids, we feel like we don't see our kids too much during those trips, but both can be a lot of fun. The other thing I want to talk about is the one-night RV trip. One night in an RV is actually pretty awesome. I think that's one of my highlights for having it. My wife had a gig where she was speaking at a women's Bible study, and she was going to take my oldest daughter. I took my youngest 2 because it was a Friday night, and we did one night at a local campground. $36 for that campground for the night. We went out. I had packed a very easy dinner. I had made the breakfast in advance. I brought some snacks. I feel like it took 15 minutes to pack up the RV. Took them for one night. They had an absolute blast. One of the things I haven't tried yet is boondocking. Boondocking is where you go and camp somewhere where you have no hookups. This RV does have a generator, so technically I could power it. We can heat it. Being out boondocking, you can figure out how to fill your freshwater tank, and you can still use the plumbing and the other fixtures like that. But I haven't tried that yet. I would like to. Perhaps if we do go all the way out west, we're going to have a few nights where we are stopping at, like a Walmart or a Cracker Barrel or something like that where you can stay overnight without any hookups. The other thing is you've got to learn to freeze some meals in advance. So one of the things my wife and I talk about is when she is planning a meal or I'm planning to cook a meal, let's cook extra and we're going to freeze enough for one night so that when we go on these RV trips, we can very quickly grab some things out of the freezer and have some meals all set up and ready. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about that I have learned about this RV that we were not expecting, I want to talk about the first night that we slept in this RV. Now, this RV, because it is a motorhome, we've got 6 tires, and then it also has the 4 stabilizer jacks. So you pull into the campground, you get your stabilizer jacks down, raises it up a little bit, gets it all nice and level so that when you're walking around, you don't feel like you're sliding around or bouncing around too much. But what was really funny was we learned that first night with 3 kids and a dog, we are in the back, in the bed, and because the slide outs come out, that changes that center of gravity, that anytime one of our kids is kind of rolling around in the bed, it creates a little bit of motion in the RV. We both felt like at first that we were on a cruise again where you can feel that motion. We both kind of freaked out, and we had just purchased this thing, bought a lot of accessories. It was our first trip, and we thought, man, we're never going to be able to sleep like this. Thankfully, we got used to it. That was the only night that it bothered us. And I have learned how you can put the stabilizer jacks out just a little bit more, make it a little more stable. But it is funny though, because I took my youngest daughter, who probably weighs like 45 pounds, on a one-night trip, just her and I. And when she was up here in the bunk over cab, I was in the back. I could feel just about every time she rolled or moved around. So that's something to be thinking about. Those slide outs definitely change that center of gravity, give you a little bit of motion when you're camping. Let me know in the comments, do you own an RV? Do you own a camper? What else would you like to see in terms of this RV that we've purchased as a family? This is Jason for Poodle Dad, and I'll catch you in the next one.